If you're a Sopranos fan or Breaking Bad or the show Mad Men, you better take a moment to thank the TV show from the 80s called Hill Street Blues. It completely changed the rules of TV production. It wasn't a success that could have been predicted. When it premiered on NBC in January of 1981, Hill Street was unlike anything else on American TV. It was a serialized mixture of drama and comedy, featuring diverse, colorful, and three-dimensional characters, the policemen and women of a rundown Hill Street station. It was well written and boldly directed. Hill Street Blues employed what was at the time a unique style of camera usage for a weeknight television production, such as filming close in with action cuts rapidly between stories. Rather than the studio cameras, handheld cameras were used to enhance this style. Overheard off-screen dialogue augmented the documentary feel with respect to the filmed action of the scene. Although filmed in Los Angeles, and this was both on location and at CBS Studios in Studio City, the series was set in a generic, unnamed inner-city location with the feel of a U.S. urban center in the Midwest or Northeast, until the impressive record was surpassed by The West Wing in 2000. Hill Street Blues held the title for the most Emmy Awards for a freshman series. It won 8 trophies in its debut season. It used a large ensemble cast with multi-episode story arcs and a mix of high drama and comedy. These are elements which are still seen in the small screen today. The show's creators looked at a documentary called The Police Tapes that was produced in 1977 that chronicled the story of a South Bronx police precinct. This kind of molded the flavor for the show. Now, the pilot episode tested poorly. According to a network memo, among the many problems test audiences noted were that the main characters were perceived as not being capable and having flawed personalities. Audiences found the endings unsatisfying. There were too many loose ends. Hill Street did not come off as a real police station. There was so much chaos in the station house, again reflecting that the police were incapable of maintaining control over their home ground. But NBC picked the show up anyway. In its first season, the show finished 87th out of 96 shows, making it the lowest rated drama in television history to get a second season. Now, the reason it got a second season was that NBC at the time was the last place network. This was a time when you only had 3 networks. And for some reason, the NBC sales department noticed that the high-end advertisers were buying commercial time during this show. They never specified where the show was located, but it's probably Chicago. The exterior of the Maxwell Street police station in Chicago filled in for the fictitious Hill Street precinct for the opening credits and the background footage. There are plenty of stars that ended up making early appearances on this show. Don Cheadle, James Cromwell, Lawrence Fishburne, Tim Robbins, Andy Garcia, Cuba Gooding Jr., Danny Glover, Frances McDormand, Michael Richards, just to mention a few of them. Now, Sammy Davis wanted to be on the show, but he never got the chance. The show was created by MTM Enterprises. That was a production company owned by Mary Tyler Moore and her ex-husband, Grant Tinker. That company also created St. Elsewhere, Remington Steele, and WKRP in Cincinnati. The theme song to it was a big hit. Composer Mike Post is no stranger to classic television theme songs, having written for crime dramas like Law and Order, NYPD Blue, and LA Law. But his theme song for Hill Street Blues is notable because it earned him a Grammy Award and reached number 10 on the Billboard Hot 100. Once it was a network success, it had a massive budget. The critical success meant that Hill Street Blues could demand more money from the network. It was the first weekly television series to receive a $1 million budget for a single television episode. Now, Officer Rinko was supposed to die in the pilot episode, but when actor Charles Hayde didn't get the part in another pilot, he asked the producers to keep him on as a regular. Because his character tested well with audiences, the network decided to keep him on board. Now, Michael Conrad wrote how his character was going to be killed off. Upon his death in real life, Michael Conrad's character, Sergeant Phil Esterhaus, had to be written out, and Conrad requested before his death that the character was revealed to have died from a heart attack while having sex with Grace Garner. And this was incorporated into the show as per his request. Now, the show actually could have looked a whole lot different. An initial idea was for the film to have been shot on 16 millimeter and to be shot in black and white. This would have resulted in a very different look for the show, and it certainly would have felt different as a result. The show was initially set to be called Hill Street Station rather than Hill Street Blues. Now let's talk about the real beauty of the show, and that beauty was Veronica Hamel. She's probably best known for playing the role of Joyce Davenport, the dedicated public defender who also happened to be the love interest of the police captain, Frank Furillo. She got 5 Emmy nominations for that role. She has the dubious distinction of being the last person to be seen on a television commercial that advertised cigarettes. It aired on December 31st, 1970 at 11:59 on The Tonight Show. Now, she had been a model for a group of cigarettes, Virginia Slims in particular, and Pall Mall. This particular commercial was a Virginia Slims commercial, and it was the last one to air on U.S. television. So if you enjoy episodic television of today, you best thank Hill Street Blues, because it was the pioneer in that type of filming that we see today. Thank you so much for watching.